My ancestor that immigrated to America was George Slauson, who was a New England pioneer. George was born in Southwark, London in 1612. He lived with his family till early 1630s near the London Bridge and Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. In 1636, George and his brother Thomas came to America on the ship Jonas, which journeyed 2,000 miles across the Atlantic. They were equipped with funds and unable to afford the passage, so they shipped on board the Jonas as sailors. They landed in Lynn, Massachusetts. When him and his brother arrived, they stayed out of sight till the ship left so they could stay at Lynn. After arriving to Lynn, they moved down the coastline with other men south of Plymouth, Massachusetts, where he ended up acquiring some land near Plymouth. He ended up founded the town Sandwich, Massachusetts. Sandwich was named after a town in England of the same name, and farmed a piece of land there which they learned farming from the Indians. They also got to encounter with original Plymouth Pilgrims. In 1640, George got married to his first wife. Later, in 1641, he had his first child, John. George lived in Sandwich for 5 years, then ended up moving to Stamford, Connecticut, which was also one of the founders. Stamford is 150 miles from Sandwich. They traveled on boat to reach Stamford to settle there. After moving to Stamford, George has 2 more kids named Eliezer and Hannah. He was a farmer to get money to support his family. George Slauson and John Bell traveled 175 miles through wild country and crossed rivers on their way to and from Boston. They encountered Indian tribes along the way. There was trouble, so they had to stay alert. George and John talked the minister into returning with them back to Stamford. George came to understand some of the signs and language of the local Indian tribes. He was a witness to at least 3 treaties of land agreements. These meetings were peaceful. George lived in a log cabin on the east side of South Street, which is now Atlantic Street in Stamford. George served at various times in Stamford as a tax collector, lawyer, a deputy to the town marshal, city engineer, surveyor, city councilman, and he was appointed to the General Court, or the colonial government in New Haven, serving as the representative for Stamford. George eventually owned a house, a barn, and various parcels of land. George remarried in Stamford in 1680 to Mary William Jennings, a widow. He became a respected elder in his community. During the times of Salem witch trials, a woman was accused in witchcraft in Stamford. However, George recommended that the charges for the woman should be dropped. 2 years later, George ended up dying in Stamford in 1695 at the age of 80. At the time he passed away, the English colonies were well established. The last names of George Slauson's descendants has changed over time down through the various family lines. There are different ways you can spell them. There is Slason or Slosson, or how George spelled it, Slawson, and how we spell it, which is Slauson. I belong to the 10th generation of the Slausons. Thanks for watching.